I recently got the chance to stay at the Inn at 500, located in the heart of downtown Boise. With complimentary drinks at check-in and spacious luxe penthouses and suites, it's an ideal spot for celebrations and your visitors. It was the perfect place for me and my husband to sneak away for a little staycation. We loved the cozy fireplace in our room and the balcony with gorgeous views of the city skyline, where we shared coffee in the morning. Ready to plan an unforgettable Boise stay? Book now at innat500.com. Today on CityCast Boise, the governor and state superintendent are pushing Idaho schools to remove cell phones and are even offering districts money to ban them. Some Treasure Valley schools have already instituted cell phone policies meant to keep kids focused in the classroom, but do these bans remove a harmful distraction or stop kids from accessing a helpful tool? It's Thursday, November 14th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Joining me today is Ashley Britton. She's a lawyer and a special education consultant for families throughout the Treasure Valley. Thanks for joining me today, Ashley.
Hi, Lindsay. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so this has been a bit of a contentious situation or topic. And as a parent in the West Ada School District, what was your initial reaction to the district-wide cell phone ban?
I am completely against it. There's many reasons why I think an absolute ban is a mistake.
Okay. And as someone who helps kids get IEPs and 504s, can you take a minute to explain what those are?
Sure. Kids who have disabilities have a variety of needs. So IEP is an individual education plan. That's for a student who has disabilities that needs specialized instruction in order to overcome that disability or to meet their needs. A 504 is for a child with a disability, and they just need accommodations in order to access the curriculum in the classroom.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is when we have these discussions about cell phone bans, I think sometimes as able-bodied people or people who don't, interact with that every day, we don't necessarily think about the implications bans can have for students of all different abilities. What are some of the potential issues or complications that banning cell phones could have for students with 504s or IEPs?
For example, I had a student who is deaf, and she has hearing aids that allow her to hear and access the curriculum in the classroom. Those hearing aids are adjusted through her cell phone. There's an app on her cell phone that helps her adjust background noise, all of the things that go into having a hearing aid. So if she's not allowed to have her cell phone, she can't adjust her hearing aids.
So West Ada has a total ban. They've got the vaults in the classrooms for the junior high and high school students, or like pockets on the back of doors where students are required to place their cell phones before class starts. And the Boise School District is working towards that. They said they're regulating cell phones. That hasn't been completely spelled out yet, as far as I'm aware. But do you know if any of these schools have exceptions to these bans for students with IEPs or 504s or, different needs?
So that is something that I have been successful getting exceptions for the kiddos that I represent. And there's other reasons why I think kids with disabilities benefit from using a cell phone. I have an example if you want to hear it.
Oh, absolutely. You see this from a different perspective than maybe I do. So I'm really interested in, these stories and these students you've worked with.
Well, interestingly enough, you said I could talk about this. It's your child who I represented. And his name is Henry. And part of establishing an IEP or a 504 is that they do a classroom observation. Can I read what Henry's classroom observation said?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So they said, Henry was observed in the classroom. He was tasked with working independently on spelling. Henry spent the onset of the period looking for something in his desk. It became apparent that he'd misplaced a paper airplane that he had constructed earlier in the day. So he would work on a spelling worksheet first and then look for the plane. And then the teacher finally had to say, you have to really look at your worksheet and start working on that. So then he would work for a few minutes and then he'd look at and talk to a classmate next to him. And then he repeated this process 3 more times. Then he gets up, he walks over to the teacher, says, "Can I get a drink?" And the teacher's like, "Go finish your work first." So he sits back down, he does a few spelling words, and then he stands up and he announces to the class that there's something wrong with the timer in the front of the room and walks out. Like, mic drop, he's done. Henry is somebody who I have many kiddos with similar attention issues, and they benefit from being able to use their cell phone to listen to music during non-instructional time. So if Henry were sitting at his desk and he had headphones on and he was listening to music while he's supposed to be doing his spelling, it helps them to focus better on the work they're supposed to be doing because their active minds are distracted with the music. That's enough input for them that they don't have to look around for the paper airplane or count the timer at the front of the room or whatever.
He is always looking for his paper airplanes. That is a constant in our life. And I think that's an important issue, is this idea of distraction. And that's what comes up most when people talk about these cell phone bans. Because I know I'm a full grown adult. And I am distracted by my phone. If I'm in a meeting, I'm probably looking at my phone. At any time of the day, I'm probably looking at my phone. Sure. And so it's exponentially more distracting for these kids whose brains are developing. They're looking for that input. But that distraction can not just affect these students, but can affect the entire classroom. And so, not excluding students with IEPs or 504s, do you feel like kids are more likely to be distracted by cell phones at school or more likely to use them to help focus?
Well, I think that can go either way. Part of why I think phones should still be allowed in schools is how else are kids supposed to learn digital responsibility? Where are they supposed to learn, like, when it's an appropriate time to pick up their cell phone and check their messages and when it's not? But we teach kids all sorts of things in schools that they don't typically, that wouldn't be intuitive, that they wouldn't learn otherwise. Why can't we help teach them digital responsibility so that they're not a grown-up and sitting in a meeting and distracted by their phone? They know that during the meeting isn't the time you use it.
Yeah, no, and that absolutely makes sense. Boise School District, I don't know if you got a chance to see this, but they just released survey data that showed 81% of parents and 84% of teachers think that limiting cell phone use during the school day is very important. Do you think that's representative of maybe the population at large, that maybe there is a lot of support for cell phone bans?
So I think there's a difference between limiting cell phone use and banning cell phone use. I think there's a number of reasons why cell phones should still be allowed. Let me give you another example. The state of Idaho just recently entered into an agreement with a provider called School Pulse. And School Pulse is a mental health provider for kids, all kids, and it will be adopted statewide, but also in the Treasure Valley. And School Pulse is a texting service for all of our kids. It's a mental health service. And they send out, I think it's like 3 messages a week that School Pulse texts out to the students. And one is a question, and it's ways to help them connect with their peers, to connect with their families, and it's support. So the students can text this phone number anytime. I think it's like 6 a.m. to midnight. And there's trained counselors on staff. There's support personnel. They can ask questions, all sorts of things that are available to all Idaho students. I know of many kids who struggle while they're sitting there in school and they're thinking, I just don't want to do this anymore. I need someone to talk to. I want some help. I want some support. This is a great resource, and the cell phone is the way that they would access it. And I would hate to limit that.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means. It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop Black Friday week starting November 21st.
Talk to your specialist about Botox Cosmetic, Anabotulinum Toxin A, because Botox Cosmetic Day is back on November 20th. For one day only, buy one $50 gift card, get one free, while supplies last. It gets better because it's not just one day of celebration, but the whole month of November. Refer a friend to Allie, and you'll both get $50 off a Botox Cosmetic treatment. Plus, if you register and get treated during November 1st to 30th, you have the chance to win $10,000. For prescribing information and box warning, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300. No purchase necessary for sweepstakes entry. Treatment must occur by 12/6. For full official rules, offer terms and conditions, and to join Allie, visit BotoxCosmeticDay.com.
Okay, I'm really curious on this idea between a ban or a limitation, because it really feels like there are different schools doing different things within West Ada School District, and I'm sure there are going to be similar issues in Boise School District, or different types of policies. So this idea of a complete ban versus a restriction. So I know in some schools they're doing, my oldest attends a high school where they have to put their phone in a pocket or a vault, but they can have it in between class time, going from class to class, and before school and after school. Do you view that as a complete ban, or is that just a restriction?
That feels mostly banned to me. So again, my concern is students being able to access the things that they need. If someone's having a panic attack and they can't grab their phone and walk to the bathroom and text mom or whatever support person, I don't love that for our kids. I also don't love it if all the phones are in a vault and there is a school shooter and my child can't text me. I think there should be more access.
The school shooting is probably the second biggest issue that parents bring up. And school shootings and lockdowns happen too often in our country, full stop. Full stop, shouldn't be happening. And of course, I would want my kids to be able to reach me in an emergency. But do you think there's a balance between the fact that our kids are attending school 4 to 5 days a week, depending on the school district you're in, every week, and that these school shootings that are terrible are still considered a pretty rare occurrence? So do we risk the daily distraction for something that, we all hope will never happen, but it still is quite rare?
That's where the digital responsibility comes in. Teaching kids how to be digitally responsible. If it's non-instructional time and they want to listen to music on their phone, I don't have a problem with that.
I definitely know I worry about my children's attention span. And kids' attention span can be impacted by social media use, by using cell phones. I think it's a life skill, like we've talked about. You're going to have meetings as a grown-up. You're going to, have classes in college. You have to learn how to sit for 45 minutes to an hour and be instructed in something, or participate in a meeting, or, work on an assignment or something for work. So I guess I view school as potentially this way to learn these important breaks where you don't have your phone, you're doing work, school is your work. And that, I guess in my perspective, is good for their attention spans. Is that a concern you also have, or do you maybe see that differently?
I think I see that differently. So why can't cell phones, instead of fighting it, why couldn't it be more integrated into the classroom? Why couldn't you use, cell phones for more intuitive learning? Kids have their cell phones in their hand all the time. So what if a teacher was able to send out survey questions to the kids that they answer on their cell phone? Or what if there was some interactive app that the kids could use back and forth with each other while they are learning in the classroom? And instead of fighting it, embrace it.
And I think there is an argument to be made for that, our children are growing up in a digital age, and they need to learn how to use cell phones and integrate them into their lives in, maybe a more healthy way than we all figured out, because we didn't have smartphones growing up. Right. But I also, I spoke to a teacher at Meridian High School who last year had a very lax cell phone policy. As long as you finished your work and paid attention during instruction period, you could have your cell phones, especially if your work was done or you felt like you were done with the assignment for the day. And even she said that she noticed her kids are much more attentive this year, just with no cell phones at all in their hands, that she even noticed it made a difference and she hadn't felt strongly about it before.
Well, I mean, that's her lax policy. That's not, she's allowing them to use it for social media or whatever they want during, her non-instructional time. That isn't what I'm talking about. I'm saying use the cell phone, embrace it, have interactive apps, have them learn how to use their phones, how to be responsible. My kids, if I say, "Do you have homework tonight?" They're like, "I don't know." And they dig through a messy pile of papers and they don't know what they're doing. If they could input it in their cell phone or put it in their calendar, this science project is due in 2 weeks, and add it to the family calendar, that would be really helpful.
I know. I think that would be really, really helpful. I guess I just worry. I would like to believe that if we were doing, teachers were doing something interactive, a quiz or, hey, we're learning online, follow this, program that I use to help the learning be interactive on your phone. That, again, once kids have phones, as much as I want to believe they all would be involved and excited about that and working with it, that there are going to be some students who aren't doing that. So is having it there just too much of a temptation for these kids, that even integrating it is just maybe too much of a temptation for their growing brains?
I don't necessarily see it that way. I think that, again, teaching them how to be responsible with it, there can be, certain websites, apps can be blocked while on school property, and they wouldn't have access to it, but they would have access to others.
No, and that is a good point, that they could, if they wanted to integrate cell phones more, just make sure social media is blocked, that certain apps are blocked, that, you have to use maybe school's Wi-Fi, I don't know, so that they really can regulate what you're doing while you're at school. I guess another concern I do have is bullying and cell phones being used for bullying. Everyone today is looking for their viral moment, get that moment, get it on Snapchat, get it on TikTok. I know I would be afraid of being a teen right now at school and asking a question and looking dumb, or maybe I'm having a really hard day and somebody's now filming me have, a hard time at school, or like you said, like a panic attack or something. And now it's not like when I went to school where just people in the classroom would see it, maybe a couple of people. It could be something the entire country sees and could lead to further bullying. And so studies have shown that schools with cell phone bans or heavy restrictions do have less bullying. Is that maybe potentially something that could sway your opinion on cell phones in the classroom?
I would have to see the studies to see what data they looked at, but kids who are going to film someone and make fun of them for, having a bad day are still going to make fun of them for having a bad day.
Okay, so I'm really curious, if cell phone bans aren't the answer in your opinion, what kind of a cell phone policy would you like to see in schools? What do you think would benefit both the teachers, the schools, and the students?
I think cell phone usage should be limited, a limited scope. If a teacher wants to use it interactively, that's up to that teacher or that school. But non-instructional time, I think it is fine for kids to use their phone, especially for listening to music or something else that helps them focus and not be distracted by all the noises in the room. And
what are some ways that, since you work with families and getting accommodations, what are ways that families could, if they don't like cell phone policies or they also don't want cell phone bans, what are ways that they could contact the school or make their voices heard or advocate for their student?
If their child has ADHD or autism or anxiety and it's been diagnosed by a doctor, you can request a 504 plan from your school and ask that cell phone be allowed as an accommodation. I have one kiddo that I was supporting who has anxiety, and the only person who can calm her down essentially is her mom. And so she gets to have a cell phone at school and she can text her mom when needed. And it's not abused, but she gets to have it there so that she can have that calming person.
And I think that, when you frame it like that, that can also be a way to take the burden off teachers also, where now the teacher isn't in charge of, with this entire classroom of students, of also needing to be an emotional support person. I can see where that is actually a big help to the teacher, to the classroom, to the school, to have some students be able to have that support, or maybe all students to a degree.
Absolutely. And that's part of why I like the new School Pulse program that's coming. All students will be able to access any level of support that they might need. If there's bullying, if there's, something going on at home, whatever it might be, not just for kids with disabilities, but all kids. If they're having a hard time in class, let them talk to someone about it.
Thank you. And thank you for joining me today, Ashley. I know this is a contentious topic. People have really strong feelings about it. So thank you for working through all of these different issues and ways that it could impact students, just for, different perspectives amongst the community.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. If you enjoyed the show, check out our Hey Boise newsletter, where you can find daily local updates right in your inbox. We'll be back tomorrow morning with our Friday news roundup. You won't want to miss it.